Hey guys, what's up? It's Sla, bringing you another episode of Car Rides Wit Sla. And today, I'm actually feeling quite alright, to be honest. So, the reason why I'm feeling pretty good about things is, well, I should say, I'm not going to say that I've vetted this whole thing, and a lot of people say it's bad, so, there could be some bad, but for me at least, personally, the big beautiful bill has passed, and that means no tax on overtime, which will help me out tremendously. I mean, that is going to be a huge tax break. I guess I wasn't really following it. I didn't think he was actually doing that. I've heard of the negatives with the bill, but I didn't even hear that they were actually doing that. So, kind of a surprise. I mean, even now, I almost feel like it's too good to be true. I almost feel like someone's going to be listening to this and it's in the future and it's like, oh, well, actually the big beautiful bill doesn't have, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost too good to be true, but if it is the case, that is just such a huge help to me. I guess it's not a huge help to a lot of people, but to me personally, that it's probably the best thing he's done for me. But like I said, I'm not going to speak on the whole bill. I know it does hurt people too. It's not like there's zero consequences to it. So I'm not going to really get into it too much because I don't want to upset anybody. But at least for me, I don't know. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest breaks I'm going to have since working. So that is pretty relevant, isn't it? And it's just interesting, the timing of it. The timing of I'm feeling like I'm making a lot of these political predictions that a lot of them end up benefiting me a lot. Like I told you, I do think the future dystopia will be in effect, and I actually think it could be this administration that really lays a lot of the foundation groundwork for that. So a lot of people probably aren't going to like it, and I think there's going to be a lot of tough times ahead. I do. And I'm warning people to be mindful of that, because I've already said I have my reservations about, what really is the right thing to do. I've been a lot more understanding of left-wing economic policy recently, and I still think in an idealistic world that makes the most sense. But I'm not sure. I think, like I said, there's been basically a decades-long erosion of the tax code and the social programs and things like that. And I don't know, it almost seems too sinister to be, I don't even know how to describe it. I have this new view of things that nature has a course to run, and there's just a natural cycle to things. And I think we're just you can call it greedy, you can call it selfish, but it's all things I've complained about before on this show, that people are cold, people are selfish. And I just kind of think that's what we're heading into. I don't really think that things are going to change, and it's a lot of stuff that's going to exacerbate inequality. And I've talked about a lot of these concepts already on this show, but I've actually been thinking of them and talking about them for a very long time. So I think I'm going to be vindicated. It obviously could come to pass that my predictions are wrong, but I don't know. I'm not gonna act like I'm an authority on it, because really, at the end of the day, I am just a 23-year-old. But I just don't know. I feel very confident about things the way they are. I do. I feel incredibly, but again, I mean, I don't know that this is like, what do I know? But I do think that there has been this freedom that has persisted. And I think a lot of people have felt it for a while already, that people probably feel less free. And I think that it's spiritual almost. I mean, there is a spiritual shift occurring. And it's something that is not, I don't know, I mean, it's rough. We're obviously coming out of a golden age. I've talked about it before, where a lot of things were overlooked. People didn't really need to care about health. And there really wasn't a lot of accountability for things. A lot of people just kind of got away from things. Life was slow. Life was chill. That's what life was. And that's changing. Things are changing. They've been changing for a while. And I think it's time to embrace it. I'm trying to be optimistic. I do think I'm adapted to it. I think ultimately things will end up being good as a result of all these changes for me. I think they'll work out. And so I was obviously kind of upset about a lot of the privacy things or other things about the future, just like most people are. But again, I kind of think I'm in a fortunate position where, I'm already ahead of the game with a lot of the optimization. I track my sleep, I track my steps, and I keep it consistent. I'm trying very hard to even improve further with that, because I had been slacking for a bit on bedtime, although not on wake time. Wake time I've been incredibly consistent with. But bedtime, that I've been a bit of a slacker. I'm working on that. I need to start lifting weights. I've been mentally trying to do that, but admittedly, I haven't been working on it. And then running is the thing that there's no excuse for. I should definitely have been running this whole time. I just don't know why I haven't been, really. But it's definitely taken me back, I mean, I need to really wise up, because this era it's going to be a crackdown. But I'm happy with what I'm doing with this show. I almost think that could be a secret success of it. I don't even know if that many people are going to ever appreciate this show. I mean, I don't want to say that. It could go viral. But it's mostly this futuristic preservation of things where so many of my words, my language, my ideas are going to be transcripted in a way that, and I already talked about this, but I guess I'm reiterating it because of just how profound I think it is. I mean, to be somebody who is linguistically verbose, competent, and advanced in the era of AI is incredible. It's something that, I mean, I don't even know. I have to be grateful for. And like I said, my life up until now, it was a bit confusing. It was a bit rough. I've had periods of time that really just seemed like I was out of place. Something was wrong, but it seems like things are really catching up. And I think this big, beautiful bill, no, I'm kind of joking. Sorry. Something about that name's funny. I think a lot of people thought it was funny, but it's, I don't know. It's kind of marking like a moment. It's sort of marking this moment as something notable, right? I don't know. I think so. I think it's something to be happy about. For me, at least, like I said, I mean, a lot of people are going to be hurt, but it's all a part of my prediction of things. I do think that inevitably in a society that is scarcer and scarcer, there's going to be hurt. People are going to be hurt by things, and I don't know. I like I said, I'm not ignorant to it. I know that a lot of these right-wing policies are going to cause a lot of pain for a lot of people, but I just wonder how much of it is truly preventable at this stage. I think humans, it may be something down to the human psyche. I can sit here and say that with my cognitive understanding of things, that if you look at a system like socialism or even liberalism, I think it's a superior system. It's a system that is fair for more people, and I want to do more research to kind of back up my hypothesis about it, because I want to see if the same trends are happening in Europe that we're seeing in America. That is what I'm very curious to know about. And if the same trends are happening in Europe, I think my theory and my hypothesis is backed up. But basically, I think that this actualization of things is just a part of the human cycle. And even if I can, because I do listen to all sides of news, so I try to understand a lot. And when I was younger, I listened to more right-wing news, but as I've gotten older, I've listened to more left-wing news because I wanted to understand that kind of school of thought a little bit better, because when I was younger, I didn't. And that's kind of my impression. I mean, I don't really think it's difficult to understand that liberalism and especially, further left economics is much fairer. It's a much fairer society to what we have now, and America was admittedly much more socialist in the 60s and 70s, and there's really been an erosion of that into a hyper-growth capitalistic thing we have going on now. But I'll admit that. However, the problem is it's evidently not working. And I know there is multiple theories about that it could just be the rich have the strings, the puppet strings right now, and if it wasn't for them, because I think that's, if Bernie Sanders had won and he implemented certain policies, right, got that movement going, then things would be different and all this stuff. And it's a fair point, and I get it, but right off the bat, Bernie did not win. So I think that's sort of back to my theory about how I feel like there's just this, there is what there is. There are events that occur, and for better or worse, that's reality. And there's a reason why Trump won, and I don't think it's all up in the air. And I think maybe a lot of left-wing commentators just don't see it through that scope, because I assume it tends to be more atheist-leaning and analytical, which I do like that, but I think there is sort of again, direct nature of things that I think certain presidents won for reasons. I don't think it was random. I don't really think there's a way to go back in time and try to change this or that. I think a lot of stuff happens for a reason. And like I said, I had originally thought that growing up, but then I tried to see the other side of it, which is that, things are random. Let's say in different timelines, you could have different people winning elections or things like that. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I've tried to understand that, but to me it genuinely makes more sense at this point that there is a greater organization to things, and it's just that most people cannot witness it and comprehend it in a way that I feel like I can connect the dots. I think a lot of people just see dots and they're unconnected. and not that many people can connect the dots, but I think a lot of it goes really deep into human psychology and allegedly chance, but you really have to wonder. I don't know that it's just chance. We've talked about in the previous episode, the previous nightly episode, so I guess 2 episodes ago. Well, yeah, like the last episode, the one before last episode. I don't really give much credence to free will. I don't think there's a lot of evidence for it. I think as time goes on, we'll see that it is prevalent, but it is for most people a minority of control. I mean, I don't really think it's particularly controversial. I think in basic human observation, it's almost obvious that a lot of stuff we do is not in our control. So I don't know what is really that controversial about it. But back to my main point. Things were better for more people in the 60s. I mean, it just was. The economy was so much better. But I think a lot of people don't talk about the potential waste or stagnation that was occurring back then. I mean, there was a lot of waste and a lot of pollution that occurred. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of, there was almost abuse of a lot of resources, mainly being land, real estate, right? Lots of abuse of people just building tons of homes, things like that. And it was just exploited, and it was messy, it was sloppy, things weren't really calculated and done. And now we're seeing the downsides of that. Roads were not built big enough to accommodate the cars that we now use, and things like housing was not really designed properly for a long-term goal. It was just short-term. A lot of people from that era who grew up around them, the baby boomers, have arguably been the cause, because right, they were voting through these decades, these really consequential decades that have led to the erosion of the social services and things like that. I mean, they voted for it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could just go back and fix everything, or that we're on any type of trajectory to do so now. I think when it comes to revolution, I think there's basically no chance of anything really happening. I just don't. I don't think anything's really going to happen. Because we have phones now, and I think I've talked to people about this before, but I can't see how people are really going to revolt. Sorry, just a side note, a blacked out Range Rover Sport did just drive past me, and I do particularly like this newest one. I like it so much more than what they did in the past. I think I had mentioned that in a previous episode. I know I'm right. I know I mentioned it. I said that, usually the Sport to me looks super duper ugly in comparison to the regular, but I think this gen, it looks pretty sharp. Like, I like the look. I'm almost worried I'm going to say it looks better, because the rear headlights on the full Range Rover, I like them, don't get me wrong, but the rear lights on that Sport they look cool. So I'm not sure. I guess maybe my dream will be rethought of. We'll have to see. There's still a lot of time I'm not going to buy it for another 2 years, so at least like 2 to 3 years. Back to what I was talking about. I just don't think there's going to be a revolution. It's true. It's very true that a lot of people are suffering and in pain, but there's a lot of delusion out there. there is a lot of delusion because of things like TikTok, and that has really made phone addiction paramount, right? It's almost like people are less educated than they were. I think Trump becoming elected was really the postmodern era in full swing. It really didn't make any sense. A lot of people didn't think it was going to happen. We thought we would have these forward-thinking, very polite, futuristic kind of vibes moving forward. I mean, that's kind of what Obama presented. And then Trump won. And I think it as much as people can debate that, I think it's a reflection of culture. I think our culture had obviously got to a point where a candidate as brash as Trump won. Because I think I've said it before. No, I know I've said it before on here. He would not have won 20 years earlier if he ran. But also, I think when he did run as an independent, or almost did, he was maybe a bit more tame back then. So maybe he would have acted a bit different. But something, almost strange happened. And I think really since then, because TikTok, I thought, became prevalent in the late 2010s, really under Trump's reign. And I just think things changed. I think a lot of people have opinions about politicians because of vibes. There's a lot of Trump voters I think are not too familiar with his actual policies, but they like him for his aesthetic and his rhetoric. And of course, I'm sure that was always the case, but I'm very genuinely think that a larger percentage of the voting populace throughout the 2000s, even throughout the 90s, I think they were smarter. I have a feeling policy mattered more then, even if only slightly. But what we saw is, I think, a clear cultural decay where culture was still arguably peak in the 2010s. Now, obviously, older generations wouldn't think so, but because still, I just think of like Adventure Time. It's a little bit of a weird cartoon, right? It pushes. It's a little quicker, right? Like, obviously, that's the main thing with the whole attention span argument. I think a lot of the shows in that peak 2010s, like, they were quicker, they were brighter, like pushing it a little bit, but there was still semblance of things, and I think there's a lot of lore that people still enjoy from a lot of those shows. It's not like complete filth or anything like that. There's still good quality there. But towards the end of the 2010s, there was a clear, notable difference in terms of the quality of shows coming out from Cartoon Network, etc. And it was worse. It's just, they're not good works of art, the shows that came out in the later 2010s. And then TikTok had become the predominant thing, which I'm sure if you showed people that in the early 2000s, they would have thought it was stupid. Now, then maybe they would have eventually succumbed to it too, but I don't think something like TikTok really would have been, it would have seemed like crazy. Like, people wouldn't have even known what was going on. I think even now, well, it's been so many years now, I think everybody's kind of gotten into it. But I think when it first came out, like, a lot of older people weren't. It's just been pervasive, and it's crept into everybody. I think old people, young people use it, but of course particularly young people. And it's really led to just a total decimation of any art or anything good. And this is my preface about, if you were to have a true return to goodness, a true socialist uprising, or whatever you want to call it, where you usher in fairness and you usher in all these good things and everything's all great. In order to have that, you need an educated populace, and a populace that isn't distracted. And I just don't see it. I don't see enough people. I think Gen Z is polarized. I think in some ways Gen Z is one of the most aware. But on the other hand, and I think most of us are just totally out to lunch. I don't even know. I think some of us are probably the most asleep, confused, distracted generation ever. I mean, it's very polarized. It is incredibly polarized. I think some people in Gen Z are just like productive machines, where I kind of see myself as that, where it's like I know more about health than my parents did at my time. I'm taking care of my health better than they did. But I'm the exception, and most of us are not doing that. And, you know, it's a sign. It's a sign of things. But I just refuse to believe that there's going to be any type of real revolution. And I think even Trump winning a second time is almost evidence of that. It really is. I mean, the socialist uprising was already over because of Bernie Sanders' lack of a win in 2016. It was over. But again, the fact that Trump won again, this is a super specific and consequential event. And I think that, again, that's my prediction. And I think a lot of policy is going to be implemented that furthers many of the things that I talk about and have talked about in this show, but have actually been thinking for a long time now about the future and who's going to be doing what and the beneficiaries of that and the losers, if you will. It's going to be rough. I'm serious. Because again, like I said, I mean, I think I've observed both camps pretty well at this point. I've watched a lot of right-wing media, I've watched a lot of left-wing media, and that's kind of my opinion about it. But the truth is that I don't think human psychology is leading to a more progressive reality. It's just not. Trump won, and that is a testament to something. It is, and I think it shows that as much as we can come up with a fair system, there's a lot more to a system than just coming up with something ideal. There's also what is and the effects of it. And to be truthful, we did do democracy, and it was good and prevalent, and it seemed like there was a lot of potential. But somehow along the way, loopholes ended up getting abused. And again, I know left-wing people would say it was deliberate by rich people, but I kind of have the understanding that this is it's just all natural order. I mean, think about even humans coming to America. What that is, what it was. It was we stole land from people. And imperialism, right? I mean, all this stuff, it goes to the root of what human psychology is. And what I'm saying is, at this point, people are so dependent on money. Money is this overwhelming force. Even people who are left-leaning. Everybody loves money. Everybody is inundated with it and needs it as therapy. You know, people need to buy food. People are not good at that. A lot of people are buying fast food, like they can't get groceries right? Because they're not organized enough for that. And it wastes a lot of money. It's a super inefficient system. I don't know if I've explained it before, but fast food is actually less convenient because you have to use a car to get there, which burns gas, puts a ton of wear on the car, starting and stopping a car just to get food. Whereas if you just take one trip to the grocery store a week, and hypothetically you could only take once every 2 weeks, really, if you had a big enough fridge. And I wanted to try to figure out the efficiency of that, because obviously a larger fridge could use more electricity. But yeah, I could easily do like a grocery once every 2 weeks, because I have, the planning skills for that. But alas, I just totally lost my train of thought. I don't think there can be a socialist uprising. I think people are already too inundated with the capitalist system, and I think the powers that be know that, and it's over. I think they've known it for a while. So a lot of these like left-wing people, I just think it's over. I don't know. And I could be wrong. I mean, we could see in the next election maybe some further left-wing candidate wins and stuff. I could be wrong. But this is what I'm predicting. Now, it's crazy. I'm going to feel so stupid, though, if I'm wrong. Like, because I am saying this fairly it's just, I don't know. But look, this is just, I just feel this. I don't know. I don't know if nobody else feels this, but I don't see how it could happen. I mean, it's hard to even get people to bother to vote. And I just kind of see like Republicans doing oddly well despite their policies not really benefiting most people. And it's been that way for a while. I mean, Republican policy it's beneficial for a lesser percentage of the population, at least in my understanding of things. And yet, in my opinion, I think Republican policy, ironically, has led to less stagnation and actually further modernization of things, which is very funny, right? But no, I remember it's incredibly funny, because I was saying in band once, I was saying, Trump's super liberal. That's what I was saying, and my band teacher was like, "Oh no, like this person, they take political science, like they'll school you in politics, right?" And people took me as a joke. I don't think I'm wrong. The Republican Party is definitely the liberal party. It has led to more aggressive modernization than the Democratic Party has. And this is if we talk about, again, moving towards the future. I'm not talking about fairness. I'm not talking about moving towards a better tomorrow. I'm talking about the rate in which the days go by. We are further in the future as a result of Republican policy. Things are more unequal as a result of these decades. And that's just the truth of it. And so what I think is interesting is that somehow they have had so much political victory when it's just not beneficial for most people. But I don't want to get in trouble saying that, because it's like, but I just think that's true. I don't know. That's just my opinion and analysis of things. I think for me as a person, it doesn't really matter, because again, especially with the current Thiel Vance agenda, it doesn't matter for me. I take good care of myself. I have luckily good genetics, but the justice part of me does not really like what's going on. But in a way, it gets into this broader morality and ethics of, I mean, what really is fair, what really isn't fair. Like, because is it fair that I have to pay the same insurance premium as other people who trash their health? I don't know. Is it fair? Because then, like, that's upsetting. But that, I mean, that gets into the thing of where it's like, because I don't know. I think you do need to have like a progressive income tax. I'm definitely a believer in that. I think I've mentioned that before, and it's really not progressive enough. But that's if we're talking about fairness from an equality standpoint. I mean, if you want growth and you want to see humanity, I mean, it's unequal, but I think the top 10%, or really more like the top 5% or whatever it is, they do get further ahead as a result of Republican policy. It's kind of destructive for everybody else. So, and then again, though, with a lot of this stuff, it's not like the Democrats are roughly adjacent. I could look further into it, but a lot of times throughout those eras, it was a lot of moderate Democrats who ended up winning and didn't really, I mean, we had 2 terms of Obama, and it was just little adjustments as far as I could double check, but I thought it just little adjustments to things in terms of like towards the right direction. It was the most watered down as it could be in terms of a real left-wing agenda, and that's notable. But I don't think it's possible for there to be this socialist revolution. I think too many young people are completely distracted, completely unhealthy, completely out of it, and quite frankly don't really have the energy for a revolution. If you think about the chances of someone being socialist leaning, they're already going to be in a lower economic class, and they're likely making poor choices, not healthy, and probably not even voting, and just, I mean, this is just basic data, whereas people who are already privileged have so much more emotional stability and thought, and, you know, they have time to vote. So I don't think it's within nature. Now, I went through a lot of stuff. I'm sadly out of time. I kind of want to keep talking, but like I said, I do want to give disclosure. I don't know if I believe everything I've said in these videos. I'm basically just spitballing a bunch of stuff, and then, you know, as the days go on, I obviously have time to think or process things, or, you know, whatever you want to coin it as. So I don't want anybody to be upset. I mean, this is definitely about free, open conversation, and I could change my mind. So I'm trying to figure myself out and have good dynamic opinions about things, because I think that's really lacking in the political discourse right now, and I'm hoping to provide that to people. And hopefully what this podcast is a culmination of that. You can kind of see how I act when I talk about different things, maybe my philosophies about things as well, and kind of have a really full context of things, because I don't know that you see that. You don't see that from a lot of commentators. I think a lot of people only record when they have things very polished and very figured out. So it's exciting. I've really liked that I'm kind of getting back in the swing of things, because I was a bit depressed the first 2 episodes this week, first 2 days this week. But no, it's exciting times we're living in, for sure. But it's scary times. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Have a happy 4th of July. Sla out.